Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel, Bookalicious. I'm super excited for today's video. We are going to be doing our September monthly reading wrap up. I have had some trouble reading a lot of books lately because I'm always just in a reading slump, which is the worst feeling in the world. But this month I did much better. I read 9 books instead of 4 or 5 books, which has been like my typical reading wrap up number. And I read some really fun books that I cannot wait to share with you guys. So let's hop right into the video. The first book I picked up was The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden, and this is one of her newest releases. And I have said this once and I'll say it again. If you read enough of Frida McFadden's books, you have basically read them all and you will be able to see every single plot twist coming. But this one actually surprised me a little bit. Like, I guessed one of the plot twists and then the other one really got me. So that was a good experience because I hate figuring out all the plot twists in a thriller book, but this one actually did get me. So I was happy with that. And I really did enjoy the plot of this book. It's basically about this young woman who's trying to find the perfect guy, and she ends up going on a date and it's really bad, and she ends up getting rescued by this other guy, and he seems to be so perfect and he has a great job and he's really nice, but there's also this serial killer that is running around the city, and she starts to get suspicious that that serial killer could be her boyfriend. So it's a very interesting plot and it was very entertaining, and I actually really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.5 stars, not because it's like the best thriller book I've read in my entire life or anything like that, but it was just a good time. It was just fun and entertaining, and I don't need a book to be like perfect for me to give it a high rating. If I have a good time with a book, I'm gonna rate it highly. So I would really recommend this one to you guys because I know October is over, but we're still in that cozy autumnal spooky season. So if you want to pick this book up, then I highly recommend it. The next book we will be talking about is Nothing Like the Movies by Miss Lynn Painter, who is typically one of my favorite authors, mainly with her YA romance books. I'm not a fan of her adult romance books, but her YA ones are typically always just amazing. Better Than the Movies is my favorite book ever. It's like infinity out of 6 stars. It's perfect. So I was super excited when I found out that it was going to get a sequel. It's one of those books that I was like, it doesn't need a sequel, but I love these characters and their romance so much that I would love to see more of them. So I was really excited when I found out it was announced that there was going to be a sequel. And then when the synopsis for the book came out, then I got really nervous, but I was like, it's fine. It's Lynn Painter. She's going to deliver. And it just wasn't a good book. I gave it 3 stars, and I'm going to be honest, this is a generous rating. I easily could have given it 2 stars, and it almost felt like it was written in a way where you wouldn't need to read book 1 to read this book. I feel like she wrote it in a way where people could just hop right into this book without knowing everything about Wes and Liz from the previous book. And I didn't like that because it felt like the characters felt so different to the characters that we loved in the first book. And this is a second chance book, which obviously means that they're not together in this book. For a big portion of this book, they are not romantically involved anymore and they have broken up. And the reason for that breakup was the dumbest thing I've read in my entire life. It made me not even want to root for them anymore. I didn't even want them to be together anymore. And that really upset me because I love them so much. And I feel like just a lot of their relationship was just really ruined in this book. This book just, it wasn't needed at all. So if you want to read Better Than the Movies, I highly recommend it. That book is everything to me. but you can skip this one. 3 stars, but I'm being very nice with this rating. The next book I read was Wervin of Water by R.J. Rogan, who is one of my dear besties on Bookstagram and an independent author. And this book does not come out until I believe the end of November, but you can totally check out her Instagram account, which I will leave on the screen right here if you want to go and check out all the details. And I was so lucky to be able to get emailed an early edition of this book, and it was so good. It's exactly what I needed after the massive disappointment from Nothing Like the Movies. And this is the last book in a fantasy trilogy. It's YA, it's got dragons, it's got a long lost princess, it's got romance, enemies to lovers. It's so good, and I highly recommend that you start this series. And I'm not just saying that because she is a dear friend. It truly is so much fun and just so easy to get into. There's no complicated world building. There's a lot of good found family, and the main character is just really lovable. It's got dragons, like I said, which is just so cool. And this book made me super emotional that the trilogy is over, but I am so excited to see what else this author writes because she has such a great imagination and has such a wonderful way with words. And I just couldn't recommend this entire trilogy to you enough. Princess of Earth trilogy by R.J. Rogan, 5-star series, absolutely amazing. The next book I read was Ruthless Fae, which is the second book in the Zodiac Academy series. This is a new adult urban fantasy series. It's basically about these two twin girls named Tori and Darcy, and they've been leading a pretty ordinary, regular life until one day someone from a different realm comes to their apartment and tells them that they are the long lost princesses of this whole different kingdom called Celeria, and that it's time for them to go to school and learn how to control their magical powers. And it's so much fun. I had a blast reading the first book and this book as well, and I gave this 5 stars just because I had a blast reading it. I love the writing style in this book. We got different POVs, and it's also kind of like a bully romance. There's teacher student romance, which I am a sucker for if it's, age appropriate, of course, which it is. And I just had such a good time with it. Like, there was so much action and just so much different things that we were learning about characters, and it was just such a wild ride. The stakes got really high at the end of the book, and I'm so excited to continue with this series. It's a super long series, so I'm not going to be completing it anytime soon. I'll probably complete it next year sometime, but so much fun, and I highly recommend it. Next, I read Paper Princess, and I don't even really know how to describe this book. It's basically like the inheritance games, where there's this girl, she doesn't have any family members, and someone who's extremely wealthy, who knew her late dad who passed away, decides to take her to his mansion and kind of adopt her as his own. And she ends up getting bullied a lot by his sons, and they really don't like that she's come there to live with them and that she's from a whole different side of town, and she's not, as wealthy or as eloquent as they are, and they really don't like her because of that, and they really just want her out. And of course, a romance may develop between her and one of the brothers, because of course it is, but it's very good book, very entertaining, and I liked it so much more than the Inheritance Games. I feel like it just did the plot of the Inheritance Games so much better, and I really liked the main character as well. I liked how she stood up for herself against a lot of these really snobby people, and I'm excited to continue with this series because I feel like book two will have such a better plot. The plot in this was good, but a lot of it felt like filler. But I feel like book two, like the ending of book one, sets up a really good premise for book two. So I'm very excited to continue with this series. Next, I read The X by Frida McFadden, and been a big Frida McFadden month. I have another book that I read by her, but I'm going to talk about after this one. But yeah, this one was pretty good. I gave it 4 stars. It's one of those books that I've basically just forgotten. Like, as I'm talking about it right now to you, I literally cannot remember barely a thing. I just remember that I read it really quickly and I had fun. But that's pretty much it. But it's basically about this woman who has gotten broken up with, and this guy starts dating a new girl, and then she starts stalking them both. That's like the light synopsis of it. And it was entertaining, it was fun. I got really confused by one of the plot twists because I just don't think it was executed that well. But at the same time, it was surprising, but then it also just felt really weird the way that it was presented at the end. So I didn't love the plot twist, but it did get me a little bit, I guess. But it was an entertaining book. It was fun. I'm never gonna think about it again. I literally forgot I even read it, but it was an entertaining book. If you want something really quick to just get through, then I would recommend it. The next book is The Coworker by Frida McFadden, yet again, free for free this month. And this one I gave 4 stars as well. I liked some of the way that this was written. I did. I think that some of the writing formats, because a lot of it is like in emails, because it's this workplace setting, and it's basically about this really strange woman who works at this company who ends up going missing, and everyone thinks that it was another woman in the office who may have done something to this woman because she bullied her a lot. And I did enjoy that plot aspect of the book, but I figured out the plot twist so quickly, and once I figured it out, I was just bored. But again, it was really quick to get through, but it was just felt very unsatisfying because I figured out the plot twist to this one just really quickly, and there was like no other real plot twist that made me surprised. But it was still an entertaining book, 4 stars, very easy to get through, and I would recommend it if you just want something just really quick to get you out of a reading slump. But yeah, this one was fun, but just not surprising at all. Then I read No Exit by Taylor Adams, and this book delivered. It was so good. It was exactly what I needed. Such a massive 5 star read for me. And I read The Last Word by Taylor Adams. I think it was like, it was either last year or a couple years ago. I think it was last year. And I loved that book so much. But it's been a while since I've read a book by him. So I was very nervous to see if I would still enjoy his writing style. And I love his writing style. Him and Riley Sager and Lisa Jewell, they are just some of the best thriller authors I've read in my entire life because they know how to build suspense really well, and they also just know how to flesh out their main characters. That way their main characters don't feel boring or basic or one-dimensional, and you can actually really care for their characters and root for them all the way. And the plot to this book is crazy. It's not really a mystery because he tells you what's going on pretty quickly, but it's more so just like a thriller, kind of like a claustrophobic thriller. The main synopsis of this book is that it's about our main character named Darby, and she ends up getting stuck at this kind of like rest stop area because there's this horrible blizzard happening, and she's stuck there with like 4 other strangers. And she goes outside and she looks into a car, and she sees a child is being locked up in this kind of like dog cage kennel thing, and she has no idea whose car it is, but she needs to figure it out and save this child from, she doesn't even know what she's saving them from, but she just knows she needs to save this child. And it's such a heart pounding thriller, and even though you do figure out like whose car it belongs to very quickly, it just gets so crazy from there, and it feels like something that you would genuinely hear about on the news. And I think that's why I liked it so much, because it almost felt kind of like a true crime case that I was reading. And the writing style is just brilliant. It's so so good. I was never bored once. I was hooked all the way through, and I just could not recommend this book to you enough. It was so so good. The next book I read and the last book was Unfortunately Yours by Miss Tessa Bailey. And I feel like we all know what type of author Tessa Bailey is. Like her reputation, what she's known for. She's known for very, very spicy romance books. And so I knew what I was getting myself into. And I still need to read It Happened One Summer because that book blew up on Book Talk a couple of years ago and I have yet to read it. This one was it was interesting. I gave it 3.75 stars and it was actually a pretty good book. And I knew what I was getting myself into, but at the same time, with the tropes that are in this book, it's kind of like forced marriage and forced proximity and supposedly enemies to lovers. That's what it's marketed as. And I actually have a confession to make. This is book 2 in a little romance duology. The first book in this romance series is called Secretly Yours. And I just decided to skip that book just because it didn't sound very interesting. The tropes weren't that interesting. A lot of people who love Tessa Bailey books said that they didn't even really like this one, Secretly Yours. They said to skip it. So I did. And maybe I missed a lot of the development between the two main characters in this book because I skipped the first book. But at the same time, I just didn't feel a good emotional bond between these two characters. It was very, very lusty, very just physical attraction to me. And it seemed like the guy was just in love with her the entire time, which I do enjoy, but at the same time, it was just I was like 5% into the book and he was just like, oh, I love her so much. And it was just really boring at that point. And just a lot of it was just very spice heavy. And I do enjoy my spice from time to time. But I need there to be a good emotional connection between the two characters to enjoy that aspect of their relationship. And it just wasn't there. They had some cute moments that I liked, but I wish that there had been more of those tender, sweet, emotional connections between them. But it was still a cute book. If you just want a cute, spicy little rom-com to read, then I would recommend this to you. And I will be reading more Tessa Bailey books. I do want to read It Happened One Summer. I feel like there's another book that she wrote, but I want to read as well. I can't remember the name of it, but I want to read that one as well. And her writing style was actually pretty good. I was expecting it to be really just basic and to the point, but her writing style was actually pretty good, and I did enjoy her writing style. So I definitely will read more books from her. Thank you guys so much for watching and clicking on this video. It means the world to me every time. And I hope you guys enjoyed my monthly reading wrap up. And let me know what books you read in October. Let me know what you want to read in November. The year is almost done, so let me know some of the books that you really want to get to before the year is over. And I'm going to try and post my November TBR video very soon. It's another very ambitious TBR because there were a lot of books that I had in my September and October TBR, but I just did not get to. So I really want to prioritize those in November. So that video should be out soon. And please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I love you all to the moon and back always. And happy reading to you all.